What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It's Logan from the Native Outdoorsman, and today we're going to be talking about Whopper Ploppers. All right, guys, so Whopper Plopper. Whopper Plopper is probably one of my favorite top water baits to throw. Mainly, I like to throw it once they start hitting top water in the summertime. Right now here in Wisconsin, it's September, so we're starting to see that fall transition. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had some nights that have dropped down mid 40s overnight. I think we had a stretch of a couple days that were around that, but now it's been back up into the 80s, so water temp has been sitting around. I'm out on Fox Lake right now, 70-degree water temps here, so the water temps have kind of been fluctuating a little bit here and there, but mainly I like to throw it in the summer once there's a top water bite going. This will carry all the way through probably August, September, and I throw a lot of top water during fall too, so this morning I threw it a little bit, didn't get a whole lot of bites on it, but it is kind of sunny out. Ideal conditions that you want to be able to throw this, you want it to be I would like calmer days, cloudy. There is some bit of a haze here, but I'm kind of out in the sun right now. But typical top water morning bite, I always like to throw it early in the morning when those fish are still shallow, before the sun gets up and kind of pushes them out to deeper water. Especially coming into the fall right now, there's going to be the fish are going to start going shallow again to eat. Once you have that water column change with the water temps, that top water level temp starts changing, the water column starts shifting a little bit, can make the fish more active. Once they start going shallow again in the fall, then they're just trying to eat as much as they can with bait fish, whether you have shad, you have small bluegill, sometimes there's that late bluegill spawn, or if you got crawfish, whatever you have in your lakes, rivers. I always like to throw it up towards the banks here. I'm in the lilies right here, so this is not an ideal spot to throw it, but trying to mimic something of a bait fish that's in your lakes. So going back to the seasonal part, in the spring, I don't throw this a whole lot. I'd rather stick with a buzzbait. I throw a buzzbait around in shallow water, or grass when it gets above about 50 to 55 degrees in water. And then summer, I like to throw around rocks if you know that there's a rock drop off, or if you have rocks up on your, kind of behind me, I don't know if you guys can see it, but we have the lilies and then the tall cottontails and then rocks behind it. I like to throw up against there. I also like to throw against docks, perpendicular with the docks, inside of the docks, trying to get it close to whether there's boats or if it's just the dock itself, trying to throw it maybe underneath and pulling it out and getting that loud plopper sound. And then fall, obviously, I'm going to be looking for, kind of similar to summertime, rocks and targets, which is what we're going to talk about here shortly. So one thing to keep in mind, I know I've kind of touched on seasons and kind of weather, but weather does play a huge factor in what I've seen of how effective the Whopper Plopper is. So calmer days as we transition, not as windy, maybe fall time, I would start switching to a 90. So this is a smaller size Whopper Plopper. This is the loon. This is river to sea. You guys can kind of see that. So it's smaller. This is going to have a not as much of a distinct plopping when you have it in the water. It's going to be a little bit quieter than, say, the 110, which is, this is the bluegill. But the 110 is probably my favorite size to throw. And I usually stick with bluegill or this loon color or flat black. And Here's another plopper style bait. This is the Chopo. I actually like the plopper over the Chopo. I know some people say different, but I've always had better luck with the Whopper Plopper. But color-wise, what I have tied on right now is I have the 110 Loon. And this is probably, some people like to throw the 130. I see a lot of people throwing 130. I like the 110. I feel like I catch more fish on the 110. So when it comes to the Whopper Plopper, when it comes out of the package, you get it out of the package, it's going to have some thicker treble hooks on them. So when I first started fishing, bass fishing, I didn't really think there was a big difference. So I just fished, I took it out of the package. I started fishing with it right away. But quickly I realized that those hooks are fairly thick and my hookup ratio wasn't as good as, say, switching the treble hooks out for something a little bit thinner. So what I recently started doing over the last 2 months, as I started getting into tournament fishing, I started switching these trebles out. These are Berkeley Fusion size 2. This is for the 110 size. I usually get Berkeley Fusion. I've never had an issue with Berkeley Fusion. They're super sharp, and it seems like the hookup ratio with the fish that that hit this bait, actually I keep them on a lot more. With those standard hooks that it comes with, I was losing a lot of fish because I feel like those thick hooks aren't penetrating the bass's lips or the fish's mouth as much, as these are super sharp. They hook into them. So coming from me, someone that's beginning into bass fishing and getting back into fishing after being absent from fishing for years, there's so many changes and there's a lot more information out there that you could look at. But one thing that I definitely did change and I recommend you doing is changing the treble hooks out on your Whopper Ploppers. So one other thing that I had seen, and I've seen YouTubers, I've seen professional fishermen, I watch a lot of the Bassmaster, I watch a lot of the MLF. When it comes to topwater baits, it's always suggested that you have a follow-up pull or another bait to throw if you miss something on a topwater. It doesn't have to necessarily be a Whopper Plopper, but it could be a buzz bait, it could be a buzz toad, a buzz frog, whatever you're throwing, and you're throwing that bait, and say the fish hit it once or twice, you try to follow it up and maybe it doesn't get hit, or you throw it, it hits again and you can't land it. Instead of continuously throwing that bait back towards where you were getting those bites, throw something else like a worm. I like to throw a Texas rig worm. If I throw a Whopper Plopper, it gets hit once or twice, I don't get it in, I usually drop that bait and I'll usually have a Senko or a weightless wacky or a Nico rig or something, and I'll throw that in directly behind where I missed that fish. And most of the time, I would say there's a good chance, probably 70–80% of the time, you're going to get hit on that bait. So let's get into the equipment that you need for a topwater or Whopper Plopper setup. So this is going to be my opinion on this. I know other people are going to say different, but what I currently have is a, whoops, I got my ploppers kind of all tied up a little bit. Right now what I have, this is a St. Croix. This is a medium heavy. This is a 7-foot. And I have a Revo SX. This is a 7:3 gear ratio. Ultimately, I would like to get a higher ratio for topwater. You want to be, 7's all right, 7.3's all right, but I want to be up in that 8.1, 8.2. So I will most likely next year change this out with something that's higher. But this gets it done right now. So this is a medium heavy St. Croix. And what I have tied on with this is 30-pound Smackdown Green Seagar line. So I've seen, again, line size has always been a big thing. Some people say you have to throw it on 50, 60 pounds. I choose anywhere, if it's a Whopper Plopper and I'm staying at the 110 level or even 130, I'll stick with 25 to 30 pound test. If I start going up or bigger baits, then sometimes I'll throw a 40 on, but I've always been around that 20 to 30 pound range. Like I said, some people like a heavier line to go with this. One other thing with the rod itself, this is a 7 foot, like I said before. I will most likely change this rod out. I'll probably go to like a 7.3 or a 7.6, and I'll probably switch to a heavy action rod just so I have more backbone and be able to, once they hit that, be able to keep that fish on. Medium heavy is still good. I've caught plenty of fish on here. As the video goes on, you guys will see snippets of me pond fishing and lake fishing through this past summer of me using the Whopper Plopper and catching fish. So right now, medium heavy 7 foot, most likely going to a 7.3, 7.6 heavy action for my Whopper Plopper rod in the future. So now actually going into fishing this specific bait and where you want to throw this. Again, I kind of touched on this already when it comes to docks. If you have stumps, if you have rock piles, timber, weed lines. When you look for things like that, especially like weed lines, I always do a pass through to make sure that vegetation isn't sticking up out of the water, because obviously with the Whopper Plopper you have treble hooks. Treble hooks get caught up on grass and vegetation very, very easily. So kind of where I am now with the lilies, I would be casting my Whopper Plopper in front of the lily line and kind of go horizontal with it going across. If you're trying to throw this into lilies or trying to finesse it into, say, boat wake lines behind something, or if someone pulls out of a dock, you're going to be getting caught up on a lot of grass. So there's other baits that you would be throwing, like here, frog, topwater frog would be probably better for you. But kind of something I touched on before is looking at targets. If you're looking for those targets, you want to be able to cast beyond that target and bring the bait past it. You don't want to necessarily say you have a rock pile that's out in front of you and it's submerged. You have about 3 feet of clearance above that. You want to be able to cast beyond that target. I would say anywhere from 4 or 5 feet and be able to pull it over that target. If you're landing directly on that target, you're giving yourself a less chance to get that fish in that area. But with target fishing too, I mean, a Whopper Plopper, depending on what size you have, is going to make a lot of noise. It's got a lot of draw ability to pull fish from that surrounding area that want to come up and feed on that specific bait. One other area that you do not want to throw this bait at is wide open water. Again, I've kind of touched on the targets. You want to be able to throw it up against something, weed lines, lily lines. It's not really meant to be thrown in open water. If you're going for open water, I would move to something like a walking bait. This is a Sexy Dog. And you'll be able to walk this. This is going to have draw power on it too with the rattle of it. But I would be throwing this in open water situations more than what I would throw a Whopper Plopper. Again, going back for conditions of your area that you're fishing, stained water, dirty water, I like to be able to throw the darker colors. If you have a sunny day, you got clear water, then I would stick with the white or translucent colors. But ultimately, you're going to be able to throw this top water. If they're hitting top water, you're going to catch fish with this bait. Again, if you're throwing that around, you're not getting bit. Obviously, you're going to have to be able to find those fish wherever they're at. With the retrieve on this, could be also very particular of what the fish want. On some days, they want it burned through that water column and they'll come up and smash that. Days like today, where I've been out this morning, it seems like the slow retrieve and some pauses built in to that has helped me be able to get fish. So depending on where you're at, what part of the country you are, the weather conditions obviously always play a huge factor into fishing, but you may want to figure out where your retrieve speed is at and mix it up. It's going to take some time. It's going to take time to dial in where you're at. But just a medium retrieve. This is one of the easiest top waters to fish because all it is you're casting and retrieving back and switching up your speed, or you can again add some pauses in there. And usually on that pause, if they're super active or you have finicky fish that aren't looking to necessarily hit that bait right away, once you build those pauses into your retrieve, I have had a ton of fish come up on that pause and smash that bait. So if you're having issues and you're not getting bit on it, build some pauses in as you retrieve back, and that should be able to help you out a little bit. If you guys like the video, please like, subscribe to the channel. If I missed anything, feel free to. I just had a huge fish just jump out in front of me, probably a carp. Lots of carp out here this morning. So guys, like, subscribe to the channel, hit me up on social media, the Native Outdoorsman over on Instagram, and also the Native Outdoors on TikTok. I've been making some TikTok content. If you guys want some short video content, that's going to be going up. I'm going to be making some reels, maybe some more YouTube shorts as well. So if I missed anything, leave it down in the comments down below, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.